that we had the technical difficulties yesterday, and thank you for coming back. And so she's going to record the last part of the presentation today. You had just shared so many tips yesterday already, just through your presentations. And so we're looking forward to you finishing up that on the postpartum issues. And it's not just depression, there's anxiety. And you talked about breastfeeding and stuff. All of those things were like, little nuggets that were shared yesterday. Yeah. And so take it over, Dr. Sanchez.
Okay. So thanks for having me back so I could finish up, because I feel like a lot of people are probably interested in more of the tips and the resources, but I can't just give that without giving the overview of everything else. So let me share my screen to pull up the presentation. And I have 2 screens now just to make sure we don't have any sound issues. Okay.
Hopefully this will go without any technical difficulties.
Yes. So let me put this bigger. All right. So we left off over here.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to look weird because it's going to look like I'm looking this way, but when I start answering questions or anything, I'll come back on this side.
Well, you look okay. You look fine.
Okay, perfect. Oh, actually, no, I can do it this way too. Okay, so I did cover some of the tips, but I'll just kind of zoom through the first half because I'm not sure where it got edited last time from yesterday's talk. So just
start from here because the last slide was where it was the edit ended.
Oh, okay. You couldn't hear me anymore. All right. So just to give some tips for surviving postpartum period for yourself, or if you have a friend or family member, someone who's expecting or just brought home a new baby, or want some advice for clients or tips and stuff to give out. These are more tailored for being in quarantine right now, but they still apply to just the everyday postpartum period. So it's really important as a new mom to have regular check-ins. So constantly checking in with yourself and asking, how am I feeling? What do I need right now? What's in my control to change? So like literally multiple times throughout the day, because it's constantly changing, and day to day, it's always going to be different. But most of the time it's probably going to be sleep, because we're so sleep deprived that you have to be creative in finding ways that you can sleep. So if that's putting the baby in whatever they're comfortable in for a longer period of time right next to you so that you can take a quick little nap, or asking someone to agree to stay quarantined during this time frame, that's agreeing to come over to your house maybe for 30 minutes, an hour, every now and then, just to help you get some sleep, or just to take the baby from you so you can have a break. If you have a partner or something, like, you have to give them jobs. Like, I know we want people to read our minds. It would be so great if they just knew what we needed and wanted all the time and we didn't have to ask, but you have to ask, and you have to give very specific details and instructions most of the time. So, and then focusing on what is in your control. And it's really hard because in the beginning, there's not much that's in your control. So whether that's, the order in which you do stuff, like do the tedious, annoying things that you don't like doing first and get those out of the way, and then try to reward yourself with, okay, now your partner comes home from work, have them take the baby for a little bit so you can have some me time because you haven't had any in a while. Things like that. And then breathing is so important. So breathing or grounding exercises are so easy. And so I put 5, 6, 7 is a really simple one. You just inhale for the count of 5, hold for the count of 6, exhale for the count of 7, and do that a few times until you literally will feel yourself like start to calm down while you do that. And you can do that with the baby in your arms. You can do that, right before you take a nap. You can do that all throughout the day. When you start feeling yourself escalating or getting overwhelmed or frustrated or angry, breathing or grounding. And grounding is something as simple as like 5 things that you see around you, like just getting back into your body and checking in with your senses. Like 4 things that you can touch and focus on how they really feel in your hands. Like 3 things that you can smell, 2 things you can taste, like things like that, just to check in with yourself and kind of like feel more grounded and more centered and more in your body.
Dr. Sanchez, can you
Yes,
show us the breathing for 5, 6, 7?
sure. So we'll do it right now. So inhale for the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now hold for the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and exhale for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you would just keep repeating that. And doing that like a couple of times, you'll literally like feel stress and tension start to melt away. And then you can do that with like body scans. Like, so focusing, like if you have a lot of tension in your neck and your shoulders, focusing on when you're exhaling, like releasing that tension from that area. And I think yesterday I shared, even I would do like 5-minute guided meditations. Like I would just Google 5-minute guided meditation for stress or 5-minute guided meditation for relaxation, like anything like that on YouTube, and you'll find them. Some of them have weird voices and stuff, sounds, and
I know.
so you have to just find the ones that, you know, appeal to you, but they're really helpful. And like 5 minutes, you can find 5 minutes like here and there throughout the day just to kind of relax and decompress. Or I used to do those a lot before sleep, just a 5-minute wind down for bedtime. When you find the time to sleep, when you can make, you know, once you start getting into a groove of a routine, you start seeing when the baby starts knowing when day and nighttime is, then that gets a lot easier too. So right now, more than ever, like virtual support is the key. Like it's FaceTime, lots of Zooms, like with your family, with your friends. If you need that connection, you feel like you're missing that connection, because it's social distancing, but it's really like physical distancing. Like it doesn't mean we can't be social still with other people. So just finding support groups. I'm going to share a lot of stuff in the resources for like lactation consultants, doulas. Like a lot of them right now are offering free or sliding scale fees to offer virtual support. And then some of them may even be able to come out to see you in your home. So I'll share some of those in the resource list. But I know for me, that's made a big difference. Like I have a Zoom that I go on Thursdays, like just a Zoom, and it's not even a support group. It's just a bunch of women getting together and we just talk and kind of check in for the week, but it gives me something to look forward to. It gives me a reason to like get up and get dressed, and, you know, and it's 30 minutes. And so I just do that. And on Fridays I host them. So I'll give those details at the end. I've had a couple people throughout the weeks just check in, and it's just like, hey, how are you doing? And how are you managing? And talk about whatever comes up, whatever we feel like talking about. Getting outside, like nature is just so relaxing and grounding, and just like the wind, the air, especially like when you're a new mom and you're just in your house, like on the couch most of the day, like if you're nursing or breastfeeding, or like the kids are just hungry all the time, like cluster feeding is real and you're just sitting there with your baby. So taking little walks, like just in your front yard, around the block, like in your backyard, just to in your house, like just changing the scenery. Change, if you're always on one part of the couch in the living room, like change your position, go to a different part of the couch. Like we have to really be creative. I remember days like I would be in the same spot. My husband came home and I'm like, I literally haven't moved, like maybe to go to the restroom, but I was in the same spot when he left and came home. And so throwing out diapers I put on there, because I don't remember where I got that from, but there was a tip that I heard and I was like, that's great. The babies go to the restroom 24/7 all day long. So just forcing yourself to get up and get outside to throw the diaper in the trash. So like actually throwing your diapers outside to get some fresh air, get those, you know, vitamin D, some feel good endorphins and stuff in your system to change things up a bit. So I already kind of talked about the winding down before nap. So that could be just going outside in like a rocking chair, or just, you know, taking a little step outside with the baby in your arms and kind of bouncing them, and just to wind both of you down, relax, and get ready for bedtime. And then that way they'll kind of start associating that, okay, it's, you know, time to get ready for bed. It's dark now, and they're starting to learn the difference between day and night.
Absolutely.
I put on here routine or no routine, type A or B, just because depending on your personality. So I was very type A before having a baby, like wanted a routine. I envisioned like, oh, I'm going to have her eating at this time, sleeping at this time, planning no, like now it just stresses me out. Like I have some structure and routine, but I kind of just let the baby lead it, and she put herself on her own schedule. But in those early days, it's impossible almost to have a schedule, because I would feel like I figured it out, and then a day or two she'd change and it would be like totally different baby. Or they go through their developmental leaps and, you know, different stages and phases of them growing, that it's not the same for very long. So we kind of have to just be really flexible and evolve and grow with them. But yeah, but for some people, they still want to have a routine. So whatever that is for you, waking up around the same time, or changing scenery, like you're in your bedroom and okay, now we're going out to the living room, we're going to make breakfast around the same time, things like that. So simple things. Or if you're one to like, you have to get up and get ready. Some women are. I wasn't. I was like, okay, I'm changing from my yesterday pajamas to my today pajamas. I was like, why am I going to do my hair and makeup and get ready? Like, I'm just home on the couch all day. But sometimes I would have to, like every once in a blue moon, like, let me just put some makeup on, or like comb my hair, because we, you know, we need that. But some people like no routine, because it just causes more stress and anxiety, like to feel like you're restricted to a routine or a schedule. And so with that, like social media, like don't look on, like look for, find your tribe. Like that's really the best advice I got was follow your mother's intuition, which in the beginning was tricky because I didn't know what I was doing. So I felt like maybe mine is broken. I don't know what's going on. But it's really just about like you deep down know what is right for you and your baby. And when you feel that conflict, it's because there's all this other stuff that you're letting like influence that decision. So like finding what your ideas are about certain things, what your values and your morals are, and then just sticking to that and finding those people to follow on social media or to ask for support or advice. Because then when you're comparing yourself to like mommy bloggers or people that are like waking up at 4 a.m., exercising, breastfeeding, like doing all this stuff, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like I can barely make time for a shower. Like that's just going to make you feel bad about yourself. Advice. So finding the people that are like-minded like you, you know, like for me, yeah, it's a perk like to take a long shower, like to take a bath, or like I make the time for me in that way. Not like meal prepping for the whole week. Like I know it's just too much. I can't. So exercise, and with that, oh, I'm skipping one, sorry. So grace and self-compassion. Like you really, as a new mom, just trusting yourself and just going with it. It's a process. And now that's what because I mentioned in the first talk, like I felt cheated that no one really warned me like how hard postpartum was, like how hard being a new mom was. That's probably like the advice I give most people. It's just like those first few weeks, like you're in the trenches, like it's tough. You're sleep deprived. There's all these changes going on, but it does get better. And so just really having that compassion, like you wouldn't tell your friend, like talking to yourself like a friend, you wouldn't tell your friends like, oh, you're such a bad mom, you don't know what you're doing. You know, you would be nice, right? Like things will get better. Like, let's figure it out together. And so that's when I noticed it changed for me. When I started realizing like my baby is another human, like she's not this robot that I could have on this schedule and plan out what she's going to eat and drink. And like, I'm not like that. I don't eat and drink at the same time all day. I don't, you know, and then it really just started, like, I remember telling her, like, we're learning this together. We're figuring out, like, I don't know how to be a mom. You're learning how to be a baby outside of my tummy. And that's what would like make me feel better. And then we would just go through the day, and each day one thing at a time, because then the days just felt so long. And then that's where like the hopelessness and everything comes in. Like I shared yesterday, that's when it was triggered for me, when I told my mom, like, I want to give her back. Like I didn't regret having her. I loved her so much, but it was that feeling of hopelessness, like, oh my God, this is my life now. This is what being a mom is. Like, this is terrible. I can't do this. Why did I want this? But it's because those first few days, those first few weeks, that's it. It's changing diapers, breastfeeding, pumping, making bottles, you know, patting back, burping, putting, like, it's the same thing over and over, that I was just like, this is it. This is what my life has become.
Yeah.
But the self-compassion and having grace, and just one day at a time. And then before you know it, you know, around 6 weeks for me is when it got a lot better. When they start being more social, they're smiling, they're, you know, interacting with you. And then you're like, okay, you're cute. Like I can do this. We got this. Exercise or not, whatever. So I put that because some people, same thing. You have to exercise and some, like if you're still healing physically or emotionally and all this stuff's going on, like that may not be on your priority yet. So on the days where you have a little more energy, yeah, take a longer walk down the block, or maybe go on the treadmill or do some, you know, more strenuous exercise. Because all those endorphins like really make a big difference. Like for one, I hate running, but since this quarantine and being locked in the house, like I look forward to that because I'm like, this is the only time I can go outside. Sometimes by myself. Most of the time I have to take the baby with me, but even then it's just, it makes a big difference to get in some exercise. So breaks, tons of breaks. Like I said, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes all throughout the day helps. If you have to put the baby in their crib for 5 or 10 minutes just to step outside the room and like decompress, like that's totally okay. Like you let them know, I'll be right back. Like you're taking time for you to pull yourself back together so that you can go back in there and be a better mom, right? Instead of just waiting and like letting it totally overwhelm you and take control and maybe doing or saying something you might regret or getting angry. Take those little mini breaks throughout the day. And that's why it's important, if you can have your partner or a family or friend or somebody come over and help you, then you have that person to, okay, let me eat my meal in peace. Like, you know, let me eat hot food or drink hot coffee or take a shower uninterrupted and not like constantly thinking that the baby's crying, and, you know. So all of those little things help so much with support. And that's why if you don't have the support, we have to find these creative ways like virtually to get you more support than, so you don't feel so isolated. So I put 1 nap a day because I hated that phrase. I think I said this yesterday, but we got cut off. So the sleep when the baby sleeps, like you're supposed to do laundry too when the baby's doing laundry, like clean when the baby's doing laundry. Like you can't, it sounds so simple, but the baby sleeps so much. And during that time, you have to, I think someone posted yesterday, like you're pumping during that time, or you have to make time for you to eat or for you to take a shower or for you to have like some me time because the baby's finally asleep. So just getting creative, like if you have to baby wear and take the baby on the walk with you or take a nap or do something for you during that time while they're asleep instead of being stuck to the couch holding the baby. Because that was for me. My baby was very hypersensitive. Like the minute I put her down, she would cry, like almost always. Or if I was lucky, she'd stay asleep maybe like 20 minutes and then was up again, unless I was like laying with her or next to her. But yeah, and my thing was like 1 shower a day, because I remember I would hear new moms like, oh, I don't even get to eat or take a shower all day. I'm like, how is that possible? But when I had a new baby, I saw how hard it is to do that. So again, like having somebody to help you, or I started taking like this little baby rocker into the restroom and I would put her in there and that would entertain her long enough for me to get a shower in. And every day I just made sure, okay, that's my time. I have my shower, I take my time. Like she starts getting restless or she wakes up, like she's okay. I know she's fed, I know she's clean, and I would take my shower. And so I already mentioned about having a person that's in quarantine agreeing to stay quarantined and stay away from people so that they could either come stay with you for a while or come in and check in with you. But here's what's the great thing is that, like, imagine doing all this without technology. How much harder would this quarantine be if we had no Zoom, no like internet, no phones?
Exactly.
Like we would all, it would be a million times harder. So the great thing is we have help from a distance. Like people, if you're wanting to support a new mom, like the best thing you could do is like send her some food, drop it off on their porch, like do groceries for them, offer to go and pick up the dog and take it for a walk, or you know, send gift cards for Grubhub or Uber Eats, because all of that stuff helps. Then if they're on their own, they can at least order food for themselves, don't have to worry about cooking. Or if the partner's the one doing the cooking or mom or somebody helping, then now that person's available to help do something else for mom and not worry about, you know, making food and going to the store and stuff like that. So yeah, having meal trains or like help trains where you just assign people to do stuff that are willing to help you out during this time. Okay, let me go. So just to wrap it all up, and then we can see if there's any questions or anything. So I actually had started a Facebook group maybe like a month ago. It's called Mom Lives Matter, and I haven't actually like launched it. So I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to finally do that. So you can send me an email or you can search it on Facebook and I'll accept you. I'm tailoring it to moms though for now. Later, maybe I'll do one for men. At first I thought about doing it combined, but I feel like a lot of times, like the moms just, like, I don't think dads will relate to a lot of the changes as a new parent that moms are. So I wanted to have a space where just a bunch of different moms could gather and share and get support. And I'll offer resources and maybe do like some virtual support groups and stuff like that too. And then I mentioned I have the Zoom Hangouts. So they're going to be in May. I'm still going to be hosting them on Fridays from 12:15 to 12:45. So you can send me an email and I'll, give you that information to log into that every week. If you want to just check in, drleesanchez@gmail.com. And then that's also my Instagram. So I have a video that you can search. I tried putting the link in here, but then it would put up the YouTube video and I knew we wouldn't have time to watch it. But you can look up baby blues or postpartum depression, and there's a video from the National Institute of Mental Health that shows kind of what the differences are, and they actually have real people that are talking about their experiences. And it's a short video, so you can take a look at that. I have the link for searching for a doula, so if you're interested in that. And that's honestly one thing that I wish I would have known more about. That was something I wasn't as familiar with when I was having my baby. I did have my husband's support in the room, but everything happened so quick. My labor was so fast that, and even if it's not fast, like you're so tired and exhausted, and even if your partner does have some knowledge of things, like stuff comes up and they'll tell you, oh, we have to do this or we have to do this. Like the doula is your support person that can be there to advocate for you and whatever your birth plan is. And like in these times, it's really unfortunate that you're only allowed one support person. So that might be your partner, or you're not allowed anybody in the room. So, but after the fact, like doulas they're there to help you in any way. So like there's some that do cleaning and housework. There's some that do like body massage, like whatever it is that you need post care. Yeah. So you're like interviewing somebody that's going to like enter into your sacred space, into your home during postpartum, that's going to help and support you in any way that you can. And a lot of them, like I said, are doing free or sliding scale fees right now based on your income. I included La Leche League. So they have in the Empire, they do online once a month sessions. So you can go online and it's a virtual support for breastfeeding help. And then they also have people that you can call that will help you individually if you have like specific breastfeeding support questions or need more assistance that way. I did include some information for men. So there is a men's group that you can join on Facebook. And there is a website for postpartum support for men. So about 10% of fathers will get postpartum depression. And if their partner has some perinatal mental health disorder, then they're like 2.5 times more likely to also get postpartum depression. So, I mean, men need the support too. And then especially for a lot of men,
is a lot.
Yeah, especially for a lot of men, their support is their partner. And when their partner is no longer available because they're busy with the baby, then now they have no one. Because a lot of men don't have much, interaction with other people outside like women do. They don't have like their own little tribe most of the time. So it does impact them as well. And I'm sure that's higher. That number is probably higher. That's just what's reported. So there is this other website I included here for maternal mental health now. They have a wellness app, and that's an amazing resource for if you're planning to get pregnant, if you're expecting, or once you have the baby. And you just click through all the different stuff and they give you tons of resources and information on like what to expect, like what's normal, when to seek help. That's a really great resource to have. The postpartumstress.com. So that's the website for Postpartum Support International, where I got a lot of the information from. I included the Peanut app. So there's an app where you can create a profile. It's almost like a dating site for moms. And you connect virtually with moms. So right now it would all be virtual, but a lot of moms use this to do play dates or like stay-at-home moms, or during maternity leave, you're just home alone. You feel so isolated. So you can connect with moms based on interests and hobbies and likes, and find moms that live in your area to do like a virtual chat for now or something. Just connect via phone, and then maybe later, meet in person if that's something that you want to do to find some extra
Is
support.
is this an international space, or is it?
Yeah,
for,
I believe
okay.
Pina is, yes. Oh, and your question, you asked me yesterday about the other, so yeah, the suicide prevention texting and the phone number is for United States only, but
Okay.
there is an international, so I wanted to share that too.
Oh, great. Is that in the PowerPoint?
It is not. So
Okay.
I'll have to add that before I download it and send it to you. But yeah, it's
Okay, thank you.
iasp.info, and you can select by region, and they'll give you all the resources in that area, like phone or text, or if there's
Oh,
Facebook groups
excellent.
for
That's
that.
wonderful.
And then I included Headspace or the Calm app. So I mentioned meditation and how important that is. There's like a small fee that you pay. Calm is actually free. Most of the stuff is free, but it gives you guided meditation. There's like sleep music. There's little like images of like water and calming stuff. So I would check out Calm app first, see if you like that, and then maybe check out Headspace. And then a couple podcasts, so Mom in Mind and Motherhood Sessions. So both give a ton of resources on postpartum. Motherhood Sessions is actually therapy sessions with clients, and the psychiatrist is kind of like going through, she's the psychiatrist, Dr. Alexandria Sachs, the one I mentioned, the matrices, that talks about the changes of becoming a new mom. So she normalizes a lot of stuff and in the postpartum period and with becoming a new mom. And Mom in Mind is actually a psychologist, Dr. Kat, who's in Claremont, and she interviews a bunch of people. Like she just did a Spanish series recently, but gives a bunch of mental health resources for new and expecting moms, talks about postpartum, all the different mental health disorders. She's a perinatal mental health clinician. She's certified in that. So those are some podcasts to look at. And then lastly, I'm actually going to do a free pregnancy postpartum stress group. So I'm going to launch that May 8th. I don't know if I'll do it monthly or just periodically, but send me an email for the Zoom. So I hope people will spread the word for that. This is the first time I'm actually sharing that.
Excellent.
But I thought that way, there's a space for moms to just call and connect during this time, since everybody's kind of stuck at home. We're not stuck at home. We get to stay at home during this time, spend time with our families, but at least you have an outside source of connection to people in the outside world during this time.
That work.
And then I have just some references for the stats and stuff that I used.
We have some questions. Once you're done with the presentation, I will ask you.
Yeah, let me get out of here so I can see people. Okay, I have to see it on here.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so this is from YouTube. So it says that, and this is there connection, before I ask the question, is there connection between, can someone die from postpartum depression?
No, you cannot die from it, but what is linked with it is the suicide. Like if it gets so severe to the point where you're so hopeless, and then the cognitive distortions, like the thoughts that you're telling yourself, convince yourself that you are better off not being here, you're a burden to your family, or you're not a good mom, then that's when people decide to take their own lives. Yeah,
so you have the suicidal ideations and those things, and people. Okay, so here's the question. So says many African new moms. This is from a guy actually. It says many African new mothers actually suffer in postpartum depression and are left unsupported and untreated. Who knows how many of such actually die? Which is the question I was asking you. And the death is not properly documented. Other things are reckoned to be the cause of death rather than postpartum depression. So, I guess that was why I asked that question, if there was a correlation.
So that's a great point. So I briefly touched on it in the part one, where I mentioned like the systemic problems that we have with like mental health, period, access and insurance, and just like the hospital policies. But yeah, Black, Brown, and Indigenous people have higher rates of death giving birth, higher rates of C-section, which we're coming to find don't actually need C-sections to begin with. And then due to the limited access to care afterwards, because even if you have great health insurance and you have the access, you only see your OB 6 weeks after, and then that's about it. Like even me, I sought help. It's funny that this is getting brought up. I sought help and I had to, like, only being a psychologist, really advocate and tell them, like, I need more help, like something else is going on. It was almost like they were hesitant to give me the questionnaire because they didn't know like what to do with it. Like they were uncomfortable with like what was going to come up. And I wasn't to the point where I was suicidal or homicidal or anything like that, but I had to really push and tell people like, hey, I need help. And then I was told like, oh, they submitted a referral. They'll be calling you from behavioral health. Nobody called me. I had to call and follow up. And it took a lot to do that. Like in this time, everything was so hard for me. Like I just couldn't do anything. Like everything was just like such a challenge. And then finally got in with a psychiatrist, just wanted to give me drugs. I had to like ask for therapy and stuff first, get other support. I was to the point where I was almost going to take medication if I wasn't feeling better, but things started to pick up and breastfeeding started going well. And I got in the groove of, you know, being a new mom. I feel like I grieved and processed missing my old life. I mean, it doesn't go away. I still miss my old life sometimes, like when I can go take a bath by myself and not have to like, hey, here's the baby, I'll be gone for an hour. Okay. But even like with the psychiatrist, I got a call yesterday, barely calling me to do a follow-up appointment. My baby is 15 months old.
Oh, wow.
And they were barely calling me yesterday to schedule my follow-up checkup for psychiatry.
Yeah, because
So
they're inundated.
in this time, yeah, if you're in a low income or lower, you know, in an area where there's not a lot of access to care, then that's all just magnified. And that's like another huge problem. And that's a whole other talk that I would love to like do in another day, because a lot of people don't realize, or they do, and that's what's awful, is that now like this quarantine is revealing all these things that we already knew were there, and people are just acting like they didn't know that they existed. But these issues have all been issues for a really long time.
For a long time. And knowledge is power. That's why I believe in doing this webinars, because it's going to be out there. People can listen to them. I remember with my firstborn, and I was nursing, I was doing a breastfeed, but it hurt it just hurt. It was just hurting. And I just said, you know what, I can't do this. I stopped. You know, if I just had a little bit of information back then that says, you know what, this is a process, you just have to stay with it. You know, I didn't have anyone telling me those things. And where, you know, we have a situation where people live alone or they live outside of the village. And so there's no one to really, you know, pass things down to them. You need
support.
Exactly. There's no support. And so I think what you're doing it's fantastic. It's great, especially all of these groups that you said you're going to coordinate. Well done, because that's what we need. You know, it's not, it's the support, that's the best, and the knowledge.
Yeah, the knowledge gives us the power to, but that's again, like you have the knowledge and you know what the issues are, and then it's still limited access to getting the resources that we need. So there's still that hurdle that we even have to climb over on top of trying to heal and like raise a baby. But yeah, it's a huge, huge problem. But yeah, you cannot physically die though from like the disorders that we talked about, like being severely depressed. Although with like the panic disorder, it is reported that you feel like you're dying, like you're so anxious and overwhelmed and you're having a panic attack. A lot of people say they feel like they're having a heart attack.
Yes.
But it can't kill you from having like extreme anxiety or depression unless you decide to take your own life because you feel like that's the only alternative left.
So this person says, we suffered stillbirth of our second son. I think that was an eye opener for me as to what postpartum depression could be like. I suffered this blow terribly. I kind of got it from that moment. And then I'm glad we recognize that men also suffer this, despite all the macho cover-up.
Yes, I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you for bringing that up. I did mention that briefly in the part 1. Yeah, if there's stillbirth or miscarriage or the baby dies suddenly, sudden infant death syndrome, like you're still going through all this process. And then on top of that, now you're grieving and you and your partner are going through that. where with postpartum, it's likely that the partner is still okay and, they're just adjusting to being a new parent too. But with that, like both partners now need extra support and extra care because your body is still changing and going through all this process because you were meant to bring that baby home. And now you're grieving the loss of your baby on top of all these other changes that are happening.
Absolutely. That's like, double whammy. Really
And that's
tricky.
even less talked about is infertility, losing your babies, like that. People just really don't talk about that at all, but it's a big, big grief and a big loss. It has to be
And in some
processed. And
cultures,
trauma.
yeah, exactly. And in
Lots
some
of
cultures, they don't
trauma.
even talk about it. Like you're not, it's like you're not permitted to talk about it because it's like, okay, let's take the Christian culture, for example. There's like, okay, old things have passed. You don't talk about it. It's done. Just, move on. God will give you another child and you'll be okay.
Yeah,
And
but trauma lives in your body and it's going to stay there, and you're likely going to be triggered when you're pregnant again or trying to get pregnant again if you don't resolve all those feelings, or when you have another baby.
Absolutely. So we have to get through this. Katie, how are you? Thank you for joining us today. I see Dr. Johnson is on too. Welcome. And we have some people on YouTube. I don't see any questions. If you have any comments or questions, please put it on the chat. If not, I think that you covered everything that you wanted to, right?
I think so. Yeah. Main thing was the resources and some tips, and just getting some of the other perinatal mental health disorders out there, because a lot of people only know about depression. And then, like I said, the depression that we hear about or see is usually that small 10% that experience like the psychosis and the severe cases where they're committing suicide or infanticide. And that's really all we're exposed to.
So I just encourage everyone, thank you for coming back today to complete this part 2. I want to encourage everyone to share this with mothers, with new moms, with pregnant moms who are thinking of getting pregnant. I mean, women who are thinking of getting pregnant. Circulate this, because once the baby's here, you might not have time to join like a webinar, but so get prepared, get the knowledge, and then pass it on. Thank you so much for being a part of this today. I appreciate you. Well done.
Thank you. All right.
And I usually ask people to turn on their videos at this time so they can shout out to you. So if you want to do that, feel free to. Any last words?
No, just thank you for doing this series. I think it's great that you have all these different topics during this time. And like you said, there were groups that I wanted to go to. I remember there was like a mom support group and there was like a lactation group that met once a week. But in those first few days, like it was such a challenge for me to get ready, get the baby ready, get out of the house, drive somewhere. So I actually wish that, like, I never even thought about virtual. And I think because back then nobody was really doing it. So now that is one plus, that you don't have to leave your house. If you don't feel like getting ready, like, you don't have to show your face. Just come in and talk, listen, get into information from everybody else, and you don't have to leave. You're at your house, you don't have to drive anywhere. So I think that's something that I think would benefit a lot of new moms, is just virtual stuff. And we'll see what it evolves into, because that's something that I know I definitely needed a lot of support those first 6 weeks. And then periodic check-ins later would have been great, just because you're evolving, you're growing, and you and the baby are in different stages and phases. And there's just support that's needed in every aspect of that.
Honestly, I just think that this topic is so pertinent. It's so important. We should punctuate it, highlight it, annotate it everywhere, and make sure that women don't have to suffer, and the 10% of men, which could be higher, who are suffering from this. You don't need to suffer if you have the information, and the access to know how to get help. So thank you once again, and we'll see you again at another time.
All right,
Keep us posted on how the groups, on how the groups that you're forming go. Just tell us, how people respond to that from this presentation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Definitely. Yeah. Dr. Sanchez at Gmail. Just email me and I'll give you any information or resources that I have.
Okay.
Hello, this is Dr. Johnson. I just want to say I am so proud of Dr. Sanchez. This is definitely your niche. You have a
Yes,
lot
it
of
is.
information to give. I'm so glad that we're, you know, helping women and fathers too, new moms and new fathers to really navigate this, because this is not just a physical thing that they experience, but a psychological thing. And what an amazing presentation you did. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.